Zachary Gerfo, Terrorism by Charles Townshend. Chapter 3. The origin of terrorism came from the French Revolution, which led up to modern-day terrorism, with the Crusades and Millenniums fighting against the infidels. Eugene Walter's work on terrorism focused on the operation of power in primitive societies to challenge the liberal assumption that naked violence can never result in stability of a political regime. This was because it was important to recognize the role of violence in politics. The problem was that issues were framed into two groups of absolutes or opposites. Those considered counter-revolutionaries were labeled as monsters because of their opposing beliefs. This provided an ideological charter for the most extreme. When the counter-revolutionary rebellion at Lyon ended, the goal was to get rid of fascism. This is the extinction of religion. Purges what permitted massacres like the assaults on the rebellion by the Republican Army. Three motives can be identified in doing this: vengeance, intimidation, and purification, done so through punishment. In red, black, and white terror, the question remains whether this was a constituted system of regime or terror. Because of the French Revolution's groundbreaking use of violence, a model was created for multiple centuries of terrorizing the mass public. The comparison of Stalin and Hitler was used to observe whether their acts were considered terroristic or just inhumane acts of violence. Hitler was very focused on the concept of purification, but not on virtue, just blood. Arndt touched up on the fact that these forms of terrorism were used to make victims feel isolated and attempt to attract these people to join the movements. Townshend attempted to portray the origin of terror in this chapter. Chapter 4. In Chapter 4, Revolutionary Terrorism, Townshend observed the two ages of terrorism and the differences between them. He once looked at Eugene Walter's work, second category, Political Violence, The Siege of Terror, which looks at how terrorism is conceived as a strategy of assault on the state. The first age of terrorism took place in the late half of the 19th century, and the individual terror is a key indicator of modern-day violence. Revolutionary terrorism has been used in the past centuries in three political contexts, some of which included in-state terrorism, nations as a whole, and external third-party terrorism. In the early 19th century, terrorism was relatively new. With this in mind, the Italian propaganda by Deed is a good place to begin. This outlined many terrorist acts of which controlled and ruled the nation. This led from nation to nation, as in Russia, Prince Kropotkin provided new acts of terror and to become a hero. These strong-arm tactics were to kill and make a statement, while being known for it. As many of these parties in Europe declined, there was a new age in which was Vietnam, Cuba, and Palestine.